You're banned from Thanksgiving, idiot. That's the text I woke up to one Tuesday morning, sent by my own mother. My first thought, even before the sting of the insult, was a wave of disbelief. Banned from Thanksgiving. My mother, the woman who practically invented family traditions, was actually banning me. And for what, exactly? I stared at the message, rereading it several times, the words burning into my eyes. Was I wrong for what I did next? Tell me if you would have done the same thing, because honestly, I'm still wrestling with it. To understand why a simple text message escalated into a full-blown family war, you need to know a bit about my family dynamic, especially when it comes to money. I'm the eldest of 3. My younger sister, Sarah, is a few years younger than me, and then there's my brother, Mark, who's the baby. Growing up, I was always the responsible one, the one who took things seriously, who worked hard. Sarah, on the other hand, was the free spirit, always chasing some new artistic dream, which usually meant she was perpetually broke. Mark was just Mark, a good kid, but easily influenced and, like Sarah, not exactly financially savvy. Our parents, bless their hearts, were always far too generous with Sarah and Mark, often at my expense. It wasn't malicious, I don't think. It was just easier. I was the one who had my shit together, so I didn't need help, right? That was the unspoken rule. This dynamic really kicked into high gear when I moved out for college. I worked 2 jobs to pay for my tuition and rent, barely scraping by. Meanwhile, Sarah would call my parents regularly asking for money for art supplies, rent, or just general living expenses. And they'd always give it to her. Mark, too, always seemed to have a new video game console or the latest gadget, somehow funded by Mom and Dad. I never complained directly, but the resentment built up inside me, a quiet, simmering anger that I tried to ignore. I figured, eventually, they'd have to learn to stand on their own 2 feet. Right, wrong. Fast forward 10 years. I'm a successful software engineer, making a comfortable living. I bought my own house. I'm saving for retirement. I'm doing all the things you're supposed to do. Sarah is still, finding herself. She dabbles in various artistic endeavors, none of which pay the bills consistently. Mark is a full-time streamer, which sounds glamorous but rarely translates to a stable income. Guess who's still footing their bills? My parents, and not just small amounts. We're talking rent, utilities, car payments, even groceries sometimes. My parents, who are now in their late 60s, were dipping into their retirement savings to keep my siblings afloat. I tried to talk to my parents about it, gently at first. Mom, Dad, don't you think it's time Sarah and Mark learned to be more independent? I'd say, trying to sound concerned rather than accusatory. My mom would always get defensive. They just need a little more time, honey. They're going through a tough patch. A tough patch that had lasted a decade, apparently. My dad, bless his quiet nature, would just nod along, avoiding eye contact. It was like talking to a brick wall. The breaking point, the real catalyst for the Thanksgiving ban, started about 6 months ago. My parents decided to sell their large family home and downsize. They were getting older, the house was too much to maintain, and they wanted to use some of the equity to travel. Makes sense, right? Everyone agreed it was a good idea. The house sold surprisingly quickly, and they found a lovely, smaller place that was perfect for them. The problem, Sarah and Mark, who had both been living in various rented apartments, suddenly decided they needed help with their deposits for new places. Apparently, their current landlords weren't renewing their leases. Coincidentally, this happened right when my parents had a significant lump sum of cash. My parents, being my parents, agreed to help. They gave Sarah a substantial sum for a deposit on a trendy downtown loft, mind you, that was far beyond her means to maintain without continuous parental support. Mark got an equally generous check for a similar situation. I found out about this during a family dinner when Sarah was gushing about her new artist's retreat, and Mark was showing off his new gaming setup, all paid for by Mom and Dad. I was furious. I watched my parents, tired but smiling, looking at their successful children, and all I could see was their hard-earned retirement money being siphoned away. After dinner, I pulled my parents aside. "Mom, Dad, we need to talk. Seriously, you can't keep doing this. You're going to drain your retirement. What about your travel plans? What about your own security?" My mom, predictably, got defensive. They needed help. What kind of parents would we be if we just let our children struggle? I tried to explain that there's a difference between helping and enabling, but it was useless. My dad, for once, spoke up. "Look, son, it's our money. We'll do what we want with it." That stung. It stung because I had spent my entire adult life being responsible, never asking for a dime, always being the one they could count on. And now I was being treated like the greedy one. A few weeks later, my parents were planning their first big post-downsizing trip, a 2-week cruise to the Caribbean. They were so excited. They deserved it. But then, a few days before they were supposed to leave, disaster struck. Or rather, Mark's disaster struck. His streaming equipment, which was quite expensive, apparently malfunctioned during a major stream, costing him potential sponsorships and viewers. He called my parents in a panic, claiming he needed thousands of dollars immediately to replace everything. Otherwise, his career was over. My mom, in a fit of maternal panic, immediately offered to help. She was on the verge of canceling their cruise to give Mark the money. That's when I finally snapped. I went to their house, determined to put a stop to it. "Mom, you can't cancel your trip for this. Mark needs to learn to manage his own money, to have an emergency fund. This isn't your responsibility." The conversation quickly devolved into a shouting match. My mom accused me of being heartless, of not caring about my brother. I accused her of enabling them to the point of self-sabotage. I brought up how much they'd given Sarah and Mark over the years, how I had never asked for anything. It was ugly. Words were said that couldn't be unsaid. I ended up leaving in a huff, telling them that if they kept this up, they'd regret it when they had nothing left. They still went on their cruise, but not before giving Mark the money. I found out later, from a very smug Mark, that he'd gotten a new, even more expensive setup, all thanks to Mom and Dad. The bitterness in me was palpable. I tried to just let it go, to accept that my parents were going to do what they were going to do, and I couldn't control it. But then came the Thanksgiving text. "You're banned from Thanksgiving, idiot." No explanation, no warning, just that one cutting message. I sent a text back, "Why?" Her reply was swift. "Because you're selfish and you don't care about your family. You only care about money." That was it. That was the final straw. All those years of quiet resentment, all the times I bit my tongue, all the times I watched my parents sacrifice for my siblings while I got nothing but lectures about responsibility, it all exploded inside me. I had always been the dependable one, the safety net. Whenever they needed help with something practical, fixing a computer, understanding a bill, negotiating a contract, who did they call? Me. I managed their internet, their phone plans, their cable, even their Netflix account. I set up all their online banking. I was, effectively, their personal IT department and financial assistant, all while my siblings reaped the monetary rewards. So that's the situation I was in. Banned from Thanksgiving, called an idiot and selfish, all for trying to look out for my parents' future. And I had to make a choice. Before I tell you what happened next, I want you to pause and comment below what you would have done in my shoes. Would you have let it go, or would you have fought back in your own way? I sat there, staring at my phone, the blood thrumming in my ears. Banned from Thanksgiving, the holiday I had hosted for them twice in the past 5 years. The holiday I always brought the best side dishes to. The holiday my mom meticulously planned every detail for. And now I was an idiot who was banned. The injustice of it all fueled a fire in my gut. I thought about all the hours I'd spent on the phone with customer service for them, all the times I'd driven across town to fix their Wi-Fi, all the bills I'd painstakingly organized and explained. They took it all for granted, all while showering my siblings with cash. That's when the idea formed, cold and clear, in my mind. If I was so selfish, if I only cared about money, and if I was going to be cut off from the family, then they could deal with the consequences of not having their personal IT and financial guide anymore. I opened my laptop, my fingers flying across the keyboard. First, their internet bill. It was under my name, a holdover from when I first set it up for them years ago, after they struggled with the process. I went online and canceled it, effective immediately. Next, their cable TV package, gone. They loved their shows, especially my mom. She'd be devastated, but I kept going. Their phone plans, both my mom and dad's, were on my family plan for a better rate. I removed them. They'd have to get their own. Their Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus subscriptions all tied to my accounts, all cut off. Their online banking access, which I had set up for them and often helped them navigate, I changed the passwords and removed my access, making sure they'd have to figure it out themselves. I unsubscribed them from various newsletters and promotional emails I'd signed them up for over the years, just for convenience. Every single digital thread connecting me to their lives, every convenience I had provided, I severed. It took me a good hour, systematically going through everything. My hands were shaking by the end, but a strange sense of calm had settled over me. It felt empowering. I finished my digital purge around noon. For the rest of the day, my phone was silent. I almost started to think they hadn't noticed, or maybe they just didn't care. But then, around 3 p.m., the calls started. First, my mom, one missed call, then another, then a text. My internet isn't working. I ignored it. A few minutes later, another call, then my dad called. I let it go to voicemail. Then Sarah called. I ignored her too. Mark even tried. I just watched my phone screen light up with their names, one after another, the missed call counter steadily climbing. It was like watching a dam break. The sheer panic and confusion in their rapid-fire attempts to reach me were almost comical, if I wasn't so numb. The texts started coming in faster than the calls. "What did you do?" From Sarah. "My phone isn't working." From my mom. "I can't stream." From Mark. My mom's texts became increasingly frantic. "Call me back, this isn't funny." "The TV isn't working, I can't watch my show." "Your father needs to check his email, it's urgent." The idiot had been replaced by desperate pleas. I continued to ignore them. I put my phone on silent and just let it sit there, vibrating occasionally with new notifications. By the time I went to bed, the missed call count from my mom alone was in the high 20s. Sarah and Mark had a good 10 each. My dad was a more reserved caller, but even he had tried me half a dozen times. The next morning, the storm continued. My phone was a constant buzz of notifications. When I finally checked it, I had 87 missed calls, mostly from my mom, and countless texts. One from my mom stood out. "You have to fix this. Your father is so upset. He can't get his online banking to work, and he needs to pay bills. You ruined everything." That one gave me a grim satisfaction. Ruined everything. I merely removed my involvement in their everything. I finally decided to answer a call. It was my mom, her voice thin and tearful. "Op, what is going on? Nothing works. We can't use the internet, the TV is off, our phones aren't working right. Your father is furious." I kept my voice calm, almost detached. "Well, Mom, you told me I was banned from Thanksgiving. You called me an idiot and selfish. So I decided to remove myself from everything else as well. If I'm such a burden, I figured you'd be happier without me managing all your utilities and subscriptions." There was a stunned silence on the other end. But you always did that," she stammered. "Yes, I did, out of goodwill, out of wanting to help my family, but apparently my efforts weren't appreciated. You're going to have to figure out how to set up your own internet, your own cable, your own phone plans, and your online banking. Dad will have to call the bank for that. I'm no longer involved." She started to cry properly then. "How could you do this to us, after everything we've done for you?" That pushed me over the edge. Everything you've done for me. What about everything I've done for you for them ? I emphasized them pointedly. "You never helped me financially like you did Sarah and Mark. I worked my butt off for everything, and when I finally tried to warn you about draining your retirement for their endless emergencies, you called me selfish and banned me from Thanksgiving. You think that's fair, Mom? You think that's how you treat the child who always had your back?" She had no answer. The conversation didn't get any better. She eventually hung up on me, furious and distraught. Over the next few days, the missed calls and texts dwindled. My dad called once, his voice heavy. "Son, this is not like you. Please, just fix this." I told him the same thing I told my mom. I was done being taken for granted. He sounded defeated. Sarah and Mark also tried to contact me, not with apologies, but with pleas to turn their stuff back on. I ignored them completely. Thanksgiving came and went. I spent it alone, with a quiet sense of defiance and a lingering ache in my chest. I wondered what their Thanksgiving was like, without internet, without cable, probably scrambling to figure out their phone plans. I wondered if they even talked about me. I figured they probably blamed me entirely. It's been a few months now. My parents eventually managed to get their utilities sorted out, albeit with some difficulty. I know because my dad sent me a terse text informing me they were managing just fine without me. I doubt it, but I let it go. My siblings are apparently struggling even more without their usual financial infusions, as my parents are now more wary of dipping into their funds after the scare I gave them. I haven't spoken to my mom or siblings since that phone call. My dad occasionally sends me a polite, if strained, text message, usually about mundane things, but never acknowledging the elephant in the room. I didn't get an invitation to Christmas either, or to New Year's. The family dynamic is irrevocably broken. Sometimes I lie awake at night, wondering if I went too far. Was it petty? Was I too harsh? Then I remember the text, "You're banned from Thanksgiving, idiot." I remember years of being overlooked, of being the responsible one while my siblings were coddled. I remember my parents' dismissive attitude towards my concerns. And then the certainty returns. I had to draw a line. They needed to understand that my support, both practical and emotional, was not an endless, unconditional resource to be taken for granted. They pushed me away, and I simply accepted the banishment and the natural consequences that came with it. So here I am, alone but unburdened. It's a strange feeling, this freedom. a freedom that came at the cost of my family. I still don't know if I did the right thing, but I did the thing I needed to do for myself. Like this video if you were on my side, subscribe for more stories like this, and share your final thoughts on this whole mess in the comments section. I'll see you all in the next story.